are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, 3-1 sounds pretty nice, doesn't it?
It sure does. It fits nice too. It seems like it's appropriate. It doesn't seem fluky. This seems like a solid team that has won 3 games and almost won a 4th. So, kudos to the Cowboys coaching staff. We'll get into all of it, but this looks like one of the better teams in the NFC right now.
So you don't want to just tear apart the Cowboys coaching staff for little decisions they made all game long? Like, you don't want to jump right into it?
That's what the rest of the week is for, right?
Listen, I think it's ridiculous. Let's enjoy the win, right? Wins are hard to come by in the NFL. Let's not worry too much about them. But yes, the Cowboys did get their 3rd win of the season. They've won 3 straight now. They beat the Carolina Panthers 36-28. And Landon, it wasn't that close, right? Like, honestly, the final score is not indicative of this game. The Cowboys kind of moved the ball up and down, at will in the second and third quarter. They had a 20-point third quarter. It was really a dominating performance by them, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys offense averaged almost 8 yards a play, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. I mean, 245 total yards rushing. I mean, that kind of just give a 10,000-foot view of what happened. It was just a game where the Carolina Panthers came in as the number 1 run defense in football, and the Cowboys offense just kind of ran through them. It looks like it was kind of the opposite of what I expected. Actually, I expected the Cowboys to kind of come out and run the ball early, and then kind of throw the ball late, as just kind of end up scoring points because of the way that I thought Carolina played defense. But it ended up kind of playing out a little bit of the opposite way. So. But I mean, you can't say enough about what the offensive line was especially able to do in the run game, and we'll get to the defense as well. But I thought they played a really good game as well.
All right, let's start with the big picture here, right? Cowboys sitting at 3-1, atop of their division. Washington won today. The Giants won today. I hate that we can't say we're a quarter of the way through the season, but we kind of are. What are some of just your general thoughts about this team now that we've seen 4 games from them?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen a team, teams in previous years that have been in similar situations, right? Where they've won early and they've put themselves in a good situation. But it felt tenuous, or it felt fluky, or it felt like, they got away with one of these and got away with 2 of these. To me, this looks like a good team. It looks like a team that we talked about it actually. I mean, even from week 1, they start fast. They put teams away when they can. I mean, this week was maybe a bad example of that, but I don't think that was necessarily a case of them taking their foot off the gas as much as they had some injuries and they were up by several touchdowns and kind of substituted some guys out just to kind of make sure that there's a long season they could play them the rest of the season. So I'm sure that we're going to invite all kinds of comments just by mentioning it. But I think this is a team that does a lot of we've had teams that have won football games in the past, and we've had teams that have had good offensive performances in the past and put up big numbers and done all those things. To me, I think the difference between this year and a lot of other years is just a lot of the little things. They get the stops when they need them. They get they get turnovers. They make the plays that are in front of them. They like I said, they make smart decisions. They're the coaching decisions, whether it's personnel or play calling or play sequencing. I mean, I just think about little things like that touchdown to Jarwin, which was a play off of the scissors that you saw previous weeks against the cover 2 teams. And, just the way that they are kind of really playing against their tendencies and just they're a very difficult team to prepare for because offensively and defensively, you just don't know what they're going to do week to week. And I think that's encouraging in a way that I'm like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic at this point. But from what you've seen so far, you have to think that this is a very well built team and a team that is doing a lot of the things that you need to do as a team that is going to kind of take that next step.
I'm going to use a basketball analogy here, Landon, and I know you hate when I bring up basketball because you never watch it, but this is they've got this characteristic about them where things can get out of hand in a hurry, which it reminds me a little bit of like the Golden State Warriors at their peak. So I'm going to read you a little section of this game. Okay, we're starting the Cowboys' first drive in the third quarter. All right, it's 4 plays, 56 yards, touchdown. It's a punt by Carolina. 4 plays, 66 yards, touchdown, interception by Carolina, touchdown by Dallas, interception by Carolina, field goal by Dallas, and now we're into the fourth quarter, and it's 36-14. When that drive started, it was 14-13 Carolina. Like, the game got over in a quarter. Like, they just have this ability to get on these runs, and once they get on some of these runs, you're not going to beat them. We saw it against Philadelphia last week, and we saw it again this week against the Panthers.
Yeah, and clearly, again, I think I referred to this offense as the Gozer offense. It's you kind of pick your own choice of method of demise. And most teams the last 2 weeks, it seems like, or maybe even the last 3 weeks, have chosen the run game and tight ends kind of eating them up in the middle. And I think the Cowboys have shown you pretty clearly that they have no problem with just running the ball up and down your throat if you're going to put them into too high coverage. And I think that they've proven pretty well that if you don't get in too high coverage, Dak's going to shred you on the back end, and he still manages to shred people on the back end. He had 4 touchdowns today on only 22 attempts.
We'll get to Dak in just a second, but he was really good.
I mean, just ridiculous. It seems so. It seems so effortless on his part, just because it was just, but it was incredibly impressive. And I think, you saw all game that the Carolina Panthers, were able to get pressure. They were able to, kind of force Dak to move around in the pocket. Dak had no sacks in this game, So I think the Cowboys are, it's difficult. The Carolina came in with the right attitude. They came in with the right, way to start the game. They kind of did a lot of everything that they needed to do to win the game, but it wasn't enough. And once the Cowboys made adjustments in the third quarter, they scored 24 points in the third quarter. And when you do that, it's just like you start to pull away from teams that can't score at that rate.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about the offense. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every single time they fill up. All you have to do is download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. And if you use promo code Touchdown, you'll get an additional 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. All right, let's talk about the offense. So Dak was 14 of 22 for 188 yards, 4 touchdowns. I know everybody's going to say, listen, this is what happens when you don't throw the ball 56 times. You win games. So it's not really the best argument. But anyway, it doesn't matter, right? The Cowboys just crushed the Panthers on the ground. 34 carries for 245 yards and 1 touchdown. I saw a great stat from ESPN, Landon, that the Cowboy running backs averaged 5.5 yards before contact in this game. That's the story of the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the run blocking was superior. The Panthers, were throwing the kitchen sink at the Cowboys early. I mean, they blitzed all the time. And I think it kind of threw the Cowboys off a little bit early, but once they kind of were able to make adjustments, and started getting the run game going, it really kind of threw a monkey wrench in a lot of Phil Snow's plans. It's harder to, throw blitzes at a team that's running the ball when you don't know that they're running the ball. There's a lot can get mixed up in the middle and that can be exploited by the run game. So, the Cowboys stuck with it, and just were able to get a level of efficiency in the run game that is pretty rare. I mean, you mentioned it 5.5 before even getting for contact, and that amounted to something like just over 8 yards a carry, I think, between the two running backs. So, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, when you're running like that, I mean, you don't have to throw the ball. You don't have to put your quarterback at risk. You don't have to. And that's really the kind of thing here, right? Is that Carolina presented an opportunity for Dak to get hit a lot. And he did get hit a lot. Even though he didn't take any sacks, he took some hits. But if you're going to allow the Cowboys to run the ball so efficiently, they'll take it. They'll take it from you. They'll continually take it from you. And then when they need to score points, they'll get deadly with play action down the field the moment that you start thinking about dropping that second safety down into the box.
Let's talk about the passing game. Amari Cooper, 3 for 69 and a touchdown on 3 targets. Pretty efficient day for him, and he was clearly banged up. Dalton Schultz, 6 for 58 and a touchdown. It's a good day on the stat sheet, but man, his day was shaky. I'm telling you what, Landon, that was one of the worst games I've seen Schultz play, just because he probably fumbled. Well, he did fumble once. It was kind of a bad call there. He had another one that he got ruled that he was down. Another one where he was short on 2-point conversion. But anyway, Cedric Wilson, 2 for 30 and a touchdown. Blake Jarwin, 1 for 18 and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb, 2 receptions for 13 yards. It's just when you're only throwing the ball 22 times, somebody's going to get left out. And today was CeeDee. So any other thoughts on the passing game?
Yeah, I thought that Cooper just gave an absolutely gutty performance.
Yep.
I mean, you could tell that he was really struggling out there. He was definitely not 100%, but he was still able to get open and made some big plays, including the touchdown. Yeah, yep. Schultz had the one fumble. The other one was he was clearly down. I mean, that I don't even know why that was ruled a fumble initially. I disagree with that 2-point being overturned. It was called a touchdown at the time.
It was close enough, yeah.
It was close. The nose of the ball was over the end zone when his knee was down. And if it's called a touchdown, I don't understand how that got overturned. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that with CeeDee, it's just he hasn't had that big breakout game yet, and I'm sure it's coming. I just think that the teams are kind of They're not going to let CeeDee beat them. I think that there's a lot of focus there. So, the Cowboys have done a good job in previous games, kind of mixing him into the game plan, not just through the past game, but in reverses and that sort of thing. So I'm not worried about CeeDee. I mean, it was, again, like you said, we can't manage this team like a fantasy football roster. I mean, the point is to win the game, not to make sure everyone gets their touches. So, I don't worry about that kind of thing because I don't worry about CeeDee's performance.
And I don't think they're worried about it either, right? If you're putting up as many points as they are per game, you're not going to really be concerned about it.
Yep.
Landon, last 10 games of Dak Prescott starting for the Cowboys, they're averaging just under 34 points per game on offense. Not bad, right?
I mean, he's playing incredible. I mean, his efficiency, the way that he runs the offense, the way he gets them in and out, the way they were very efficient. They didn't have very many penalties. He got them into the right plays. He didn't have to throw the football a lot, but when he did, he was deadly and he was on target and he was efficient. And I think that's all you can ask for. And if you're going to win these games where you're running the football a lot, if you only have a handful of under 25 attempts a game, your quarterback's got to be incredibly efficient and find a way to throw the ball into the end zone. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. You just cannot win a game running the football by yourself in the NFL. I mean, it's been the thing that's held back the Baltimore Ravens at times. Yep. They have one of the most efficient running games in football, but Lamar Jackson ultimately has to throw the ball to win the game. And he does. And that's, that's the difference between good and bad Lamar. With Dak, he doesn't, he'll take whatever gives you, whether you need him to throw the ball 50 times and be crazy and take chances, or you need him to be very accurate, put the ball where it needs to be, and then take the surgical strikes when it's time. Dak can play any variation of the game in any part of the spectrum, and that's what makes him so incredibly special.
And what's scary about this offense is they can get better. Like, they're going to get Michael Gallup back, I think, after the bye. So a few more weeks. Lyle Collins has 2 more games that he's going to miss. I think Terrence Steele's done a good job filling in. Collins is just a superior player. So they can be even better on offense. They can be even more efficient on certain plays. This offense is really, really good. And Landon, every single game that the Cowboys play in the rest of the year, they're going to have a great chance to win because that offense can get hot at just a moment's notice, right? So really, really fun offense here. But I actually want to talk more about the defense on today's show because I kind of think that's the story here, right, Landon?
I mean, certainly it's, again, they continue to surprise us, right? It's just nuts, like how, we've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. And sometimes it looks like it's going to, but just a fantastic performance, I thought, overall.
Yeah, I want to get to some of the biggest stars of that game, which I think you can guess who one of them is. But before we do that, let's see. Tell you guys about DirecTV. DirecTV Stream brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Also want to tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors and just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. Trevon Diggs, Landon. That's
oh yeah,
Diggs.
Right? Trevon, yeah. I remember that guy. Yeah, he's good.
He has 5 interceptions in 4 games. I have to go back and double check, but I don't think the Cowboys got their 5th interception as a team until like Thanksgiving last year.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That sounds right. That sounds right for sure.
He is very quickly becoming one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And there's not many guys that I think you can say right now that you'd take over him, right? Like that's just how special of a player he is. So you can add whatever you want. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory here, right?
Yeah, he's dangerous. I mean, I think that's the thing that is really, his reputation is going to start preceding him at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what, you want from a cornerback. You want somebody that makes offensive coordinators think twice about going his direction. It's not that he's shutting down guys necessarily, and though I think he has done an excellent job. A lot of what DJ Moore was able to do today, and he had a fantastic game. You absolutely called that. I mean, I know you've been a huge fan of his forever, but you absolutely called that earlier in the week. A lot of what they were able to do was because they were able to scheme him away from Trevon Diggs.
Oh, yeah, it was putting him in the backfield and moving him out to the slot. Yeah, I mean, it's what they had to do to try to move the ball, right?
Yeah, and I think that, overall Diggs just played the game masterfully. I mean, you just see him, and he talked about it after the game. He's not playing the player; he's playing the routes. He knows what the routes are. He knows it's 3rd and 8. They need 3rd and 5. They need 5 yards. There's only 4 or 5 routes they're going to run, and they're going to run it with this player. As soon as you see the guy break out, he broke out. He was flat-footed at the time. Yep. He saw the ball the whole time, just broke on it. The second interception was just him being more physical than the other guy arriving at the same time as the ball. Look, he has the best hands I've ever seen in a cornerback, I think.
Yep.
And he's still learning the position in a lot of ways. So I think he's been incredible. What to me what's really impressive is the mental side of the game, just the awareness to know when to take the chances, when is your opportunity, and how to jump them. And then I think eventually we're going to have to talk about some of the reason that he was able to get some of these passes is I think because the pass rush really has started to get to Sam Darnold by the time that part of the game rolled around.
All right, so you ready for my Week 4 hot take, Landon?
Let's hear it.
Trevon Diggs was not their best defender in Week 4. Because do you know who it was? It was Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory had a monster game. Not only on the stat sheet, which I'll read to you right now, he had 3 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, and 4 quarterback hits. He also drew 2 huge penalties in this game. They could not block him. And a lot of the reason why Sam Darnold threw some of those interceptions and interceptable passes is because Cameron Irving had no chance on the outside. I thought this is the best game I've ever seen Randy Gregory play.
Yeah, I mean, he's really starting to feel it. He's starting to work his way into it. You're starting to see a little bit of what we saw in training camp start to show itself in the regular season, which is exciting. So, I mean, I think he was just lightning on the outside, and when they brought him inside on stunts and twists, he was just throwing guys around and just being physical, and not just using his quickness but using his power, and that was just incredibly impressive. I think we would also be remiss if we didn't mention some of the other guys on the defensive line, because
of course,
Randy Gregory was played in a fantastic game. There's no way around it. But the team effort behind him was also incredibly impressive. I mean, you saw Osa showing up again, Golson coming in and getting his first half sack. Parsons, did Parsons have a sack and maybe a half, or I think he had a sack and a tackle for loss.
They gave him a full sack. Yep.
And then, we gotta, it's hard not to continue to mention, famous huge free agent pickup Jaron Kearse, who has just been absolutely lightning in a bottle at safety. It's just
2 tackles for loss by Kearse today.
It's just a number of guys making plays and doing what they need. Anthony Brown got in the mix. He should have caught the interception.
Oh yeah. Anthony Brown
Lewis
pass deflections today.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis with a really nice tackle on a third down. Everybody's like, it's not just, I remember spending a lot of time watching these really good offenses with defenses that basically were 10 guys waiting around for Sean Lee to make a play.
Yeah.
And now it feels like there are, anybody on that defense can make a play. It's not always that it's pretty. It's not always that they are locking these guys down, but consistently when this team needs a play, their defense finds a way, and they lock down in the red zone, and that's more than what we could have hoped for coming into the season from this defense.
So I got a good stat here. So this is about our guy Osa Odigizua. Landon. He has more quarterback hits now through 4 games than any Cowboy defensive tackle had throughout the entire season last year. Now, I don't know if that says more about Osa or how bad the defensive tackle situation was last year. Probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of both, but he continued to play really well. He had a half a sack today. He had a tackle for a loss, and he had 3 quarterback hits. So he just continues to find ways to make plays. We should also mention Chauncey Golston. I thought he looked better this week than he did last week. I think I was a little critical of him last week. Definitely looked more comfortable out there. It was just a really good team performance. And I know they gave up 28 points. Like, I know that's people are going to be like, oh, that's not a great performance. They gave up 14 in the last, 7 minutes of that game? 7-ish minutes of that game. And basically at that point, they were just in let's play a prevent. We're not gonna blitz. We're gonna pull some guys and rotate, people in. I thought for the most part they did their job. I really think they played fine.
Yeah, I think for all the hand wringing that was going on in the fourth quarter by Cowboys fans, the game was never in doubt. The game was never even close to in doubt. And the only point in which the game even became close to within doubt was in the last 2.5 minutes of the game. And I had very little doubt that the Cowboys were going to be able to find a way to close out the game just because of the way that they had been running the football. And it wasn't like the Panthers were suddenly going to find the will to stop the run. So, I think, it was a winning performance. 28 points is definitely not ultimately what you want. But again, I think they made the plays when you need them. And I would remind everyone again, look who's playing on this field right now. You don't have DeMarcus Lawrence. You don't have your second-round pick at cornerback. You don't have, several of your rotational defensive ends. You don't have a starting defensive tackle. So
your linebacker that played the most snaps for you in the first 2 weeks of the season is not out there, right?
Yeah.
And I was just going to mention one of the things that they have to clean up is the quarterback scrambles, right? Like, Sam Darnold cannot be rushing for 2 touchdowns on you and getting out there. Now, I feel better about when Keanu Neal comes back that he's going to be able to help, in that area. But they've got some things they can work on, but their defense is certainly good enough and opportunistic enough to help you win games as they continue to improve. And I think that's what's really exciting, right?
Yeah, and going back to the scramble thing, they need to clean that up quick because I mean, that's one of the few ways that Daniel Jones actually can beat you, right? So he's coming in. They're going into his house next week, so they're gonna have to figure out how to stop a running quarterback.
So that's our game recap, Landon. It was a lot of fun. We're gonna break it down over the next couple of days. We're gonna do some all 22 film review, maybe on Tuesday. We've got a crossover show coming up later this week, but just want to remind some people, Landon, this is the Cowboys schedule over the next couple of weeks. Home against the Giants, at the Patriots, at the Vikings, home against the Broncos, home against the Falcons. A couple of games in there that are going to be a little bit tough, but I think it would be a disappointment if Cowboys don't go 2-2 at the worst in that stretch, right? Like the schedule gets favorable for them coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually thought the New York game was in New York, but that's right. It's actually here.
It's a home game.
Four games in a row at home. Or wait,
three games at home. The Charger game was basically at home. I know you call it Los Angeles.
I mean, geez, yeah. I call it. It was my home, and all our Cowboys fans were there, so it was a home game to me. I think that's what makes me feel really good is that this team's playing well, and the schedule for the next few games is very favorable. That New England team looks like it's a decent game. They're not going to be an easy out, but I think you feel confident you can beat New York. You feel confident that you can beat New England. You feel the Vikings game is going to be interesting, but I think you can get a win there. I think you can win all four of those games, and if you do, obviously you're going to be really sitting pretty. So Cowboys 3-1 to kind of sum up, I think looking at a situation where they can pull even further away in the division, and with the West being so difficult and the East maybe being a little bit more muddy than we thought, I think there's a chance. I mean, sorry, the South, the NFC South being a little bit more muddy than we thought. I think that there's a chance that the Cowboys, if they can find a way to win some of these games early, to kind of really stack wins, especially right now, they could be putting themselves in a really good spot to be playing for bye week, a top seed in the playoffs. I mean, this is really early to be talking about that, but this is the time now to be stacking wins against the lesser competition, because later on when you need them, when it's comparison time, you're going to want them.
It's just worth noting that the rest of the division next week has some really tough games. So if the Cowboys can beat the Giants, and again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, you can start to open up a nice little lead on some of these other teams. So just something to keep an eye on. So we always talk about getting through the first month of the season at 2-2 or better, 3-1, considering their schedule, considering they had a game here against Carolina on a short week to win that game. Good job by Dallas. Make sure you guys are downloading the podcast. You can subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy the win.